We have breaking news for you on Cards Hub 365. Brenden, you haven't looked at your phone yet. I'm guessing in the last 40 seconds since we hit go live and played the intro.
No, I haven't.
Joe Roderick, Brenden Schaeffer here with you. It's Cards Hub 365 powered by Gray Bar here on Sports Hub STL. All content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Brenden, Michael McGreevy is a St. Louis Cardinal.
Oh boy, everybody's gonna love that. Hey,
as I believe, I think we hit go live at 10:17, and then not moments afterwards, I'm getting I get texts and I get updates, and Michael McGreevy has been called up from Memphis. Roderick Munoz gets sent down. We have not had any kind of time to even process any of this.
I literally didn't know it when you're talking about breaking news. I'm like, Joe, you're so full of crap. You're doing this to me again. Nobody knows what you're talking about. No, this is real. I see the text from Cardinals PR too. So it's legit.
As we see this, neither one of us have had time to text or react to anybody, talk to anybody. What is your instant reaction? What is your thinking, the reasoning behind this?
My thinking first on is that the Cardinals might feel they need some coverage out of that bullpen, which is not really the role in which you hoped to see Michael McGreevy come up. But he goes down. Roderick Munoz is who goes down to Memphis. We know that they've got like this notion of a 6-man rotation. They hadn't announced though their starters for the Pittsburgh series, but like you wouldn't be calling up McGreevy today if he were starting against Pittsburgh. So probably for the bullpen for now, Joe, would be my guess. The freshest arm, because like Graceffo had been that guy and they just used him in the doubleheader for 5 innings. So maybe that's what it is. Obviously we'll hear more from the Cardinals coming up, but that's my initial reaction, is they probably need some coverage for the bullpen after Sonny couldn't get through 5 yesterday.
And if you have Eric Fetty tonight, who has struggled, I would say of the 6 starters in the rotation, he has struggled the most of anybody so far early this year. So if that's the case and he falls again, you're going to need that backup out there. But outside of that, if you don't use, Michael McGreevy, I thought, Brenden, you were down at spring training for the first month of it. I know neither one of us was really down there towards the end when they were making the roster announcements, and Michael McGreevy had the best spring of any pitcher in the Cardinal organization, and they start him in Memphis. Yeah, I was always under the impression that if he's up in St. Louis, it is to be a starting pitcher for the Cardinals.
That's what I expected too, Joe. And so we'll see from the Cardinals when we hear from them today. Maybe there's more coming that we're not quite aware of yet, right? Like if you're doing this with McGreevy today, and I guess I should look up when's the last time he pitched at Memphis. We're doing this all on the fly, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Again, like the timing of it makes me think he's going to be available out of the bullpen this weekend. That would be the thing that would make the most sense to me out of the gate for this. And then from there, you think about, okay, Eric Fetty, like you said, his last start wasn't great. We haven't seen a ton of the consistency from him necessarily this season. And so having that additional coverage might be helpful. And like with Steven Matz, if they haven't announced that he's going to start the next time, I think they should give Steven Matz another look in this rotation. Keep with the 6-man thing before the 8th of May, which is the Thursday off day, where they probably go back to a 5-man after that point. But it's like, do they think that maybe they can't get by with only the other 2 lefties in their bullpen? Like, do they need to allocate Matz for relief purposes? If they feel that way, does that maybe give McGreevy another lane into the rotation? Those are definitely some of the possibilities, but I frankly have not yet been able to process and put my finger on exactly what this would be, if not just because if it is for eventually to be a starter, there's other pieces of information that we're missing at this moment in time. If it's just to be a reliever this weekend, then maybe that's what it is.
Clubhouse opens here in about 7 minutes from now.
So we'll get reports as we're on here live potentially. Maybe not though, because Ollie's not going to talk to the media until probably about 11:30 if I had to guess. So we'll see. Michael McGreevy pitched on the 27th of April, so he's rested and ready to go. in whatever capacity the Cardinals may need him. Like Munoz goes down, so it wouldn't seem to me like Eric Fetty's scratched. Like if that was the case, wouldn't we see Eric Fetty to the IL or something of that ilk? So is it just that he's the freshest arm that can give multiple innings and he's coming up for now? And then, you know what, Joe? Originally, we titled this video wondering, are we expecting too much from the Cardinals this year? Like our reactions to these losses that are mounting and they can't beat the damn Mets, and the record continues to fall further and further from 500. I wonder if there's a point at which the Cardinals are kind of already going, we still want to do well this season. Like that's a goal in the back of our minds. But if this is going to be the direction of things, we really probably should put our money where our mouth is on the whole development of young players and putting guys in positions where they're getting opportunities. And maybe Michael McGreevy falls into that category, and they're just kind of reaching the breaking point early with that. It's not to say that would be punting on the season if they're going to start to incorporate Michael McGreevy, because as you said, Joe, he was great in spring. Like he was somebody that we thought out of spring training deserved an opportunity. Yeah. The numbers game dictated he didn't get one. We'll see, though, when we hear from the Cardinals what this exactly is going to mean.
And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of, as you mentioned last night, I mean, Sonny Gray, that was a really bad outing for Sonny Gray last night.
Yeah.
No, and Eric Fetty tonight, again, with the walks, with the way he's been hit and the struggles he's had, you kind of look at it, I mean, because end of the line, I mean, Matz and Libator, and even Michaelis to an extent. I mean, you wrote about this the other day. I mean, those are guys that you're not bumping their starts. So
yeah, I mean, go ahead.
No, I would say that's where I kind of look at it, and I am scratching my head, and we're waiting. I know Ollie's not going to talk, but they're still going to have the media in there. Like they're still going to have people in there talking, and maybe we find out about an injury or something else, or a scratch in some capacity with this if McGreevy's being called up today.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Hard to necessarily speculate on that, but I would look at it at this point and say with Michael McGreevy, if he hasn't pitched since April the 27th, that's been a plenty of time for him to be fully available for a starter's workload today. Whether that's needed or not, it seems like not based on the roster move itself, unless there's more coming. But even if it's just, hey, he's available out of the bullpen now, do the Cardinals reach a point over the next week or so where they have to make some different decisions? Like, I don't think you can imminently just decide in the early portion of May, hey, we're going to make this trade to, open up a spot for McGreevy. So, I don't think that's just on the horizon. That would be definitely major news if something like that were happening. It just
I also don't yet. I don't know what pieces you have. I mean, I don't know who you trade. Like, I don't know what you. Yeah.
Like your starters you mentioned, okay, Michaelis has been doing well outside of the one terrible start in Boston. His ERA is 2.39 on the season. And say what you want about he doesn't go very deep into games. Like he's been getting the job done for what he is, right? The number 5 starter. Eric Fetty would be the one guy where you go, all right, he's another guy on an expiring contract. You're hoping to get something from him at the trade deadline if the Cardinals aren't in the mix. And right now, his performance is not dictating necessarily that you'd get a ton for him. But he's in your rotation, and you figure he'd stay there. Steven Matz could certainly end up in a situation where they decide that he's going to go back to the bullpen or he should be a starter. I think he probably builds more trade value if that's what this year ends up being about in the rotation. So we'll see on that front. Joe, another question here from the chat. You think the game happens today with the weather? The Cardinals are concerned about weather. They can't afford to have Eric Fetty pitch 2 innings and then have a rain delay. Like if that's what happens without Michael McGreevy getting called up, they're completely boned. Like they don't have it with the bullpen the way that those guys have been used the last few days. So it could be as simple as Andrew's question here. Hey, he's coverage for the moment on let's make sure we get through this weekend with weather. And beyond that, let's kind of make this a reckoning point where we do decide to put him into the rotation some way or somehow. Whatever that would mean for a Fetty and or a Matz, I don't know that that's going to be it. It could be just as simple as, again, we just need coverage because it's his turn to pitch. and we might have a second inning rain delay. I haven't looked at the radar today,
It's
Joe.
bad all day. Hudson has a baseball tournament in Edwardsville this weekend, but their field is all turf, infield and outfield. So I mean, it could rain for hours and be ready to go in 10 minutes. So that's not the case. I don't think Edwardsville cares as much about concessions as maybe the Cardinals do with selling stuff.
trying to get some folks in the building or something.
Yeah. So here, there's a few questions that have come out also in the chat too. Joseph says, they've come to their senses. Bring up Graceffo when he's eligible. Graceffo is eligible right now. So Graceffo, when Graceffo was called up on Wednesday, he was the 27th man in the second game of the doubleheader. That doesn't count as far as options go and being moved up and down. So Graceffo was eligible to be called up on Thursday. That doesn't count. He doesn't have to wait the 15 days that any of the other pitchers do. So if that's the case, they wanted just backup arms. I mean, Graceffo, what did he throw on Wednesday?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He threw 5 innings. I mean, he finished that game on Wednesday. I believe it was Wednesday when Matt's pitched. So that's only been 2 days of off, and now it's Saturday. So he'll need a full allotment of like a starter's workload. He threw 5 innings. That's like a start. You'll see him 5 days later available as though that was his regular turn. And so that's why it's not him today if they're needing coverage potentially for this weekend.
How many pitches did he throw on Wednesday?
Yeah, you can go look, but
I'm going back and looking now.
In the 70s maybe is what I was thinking it felt. By the way,
70 pitches. Okay. So my thought on that was if it's a doubleheader tomorrow, it's Graceffo, your 27th man tomorrow.
Yeah,
but no, your thought of possibly a rain delay today, that makes complete sense, because if they looked at the radar today and they said, hey, we're not getting this in today, it's a doubleheader tomorrow, then McGreevy would have been your 27th man tomorrow if tomorrow was a doubleheader.
100%. And then basically, whether today goes that way or not, now you'll have McGreevy for tomorrow, and you can call up a different 27th man, one who isn't probably Graceffo, because again, he'll have pitched Wednesday and then go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days rest. You probably, with a young starter like that, there's no reason to rush it, and they'll have enough coverage, you would think, if they were to not play today, where McGreevy ends up being able to help you tomorrow, and then one other reliever, whoever that might be. I off the top of my head, I don't know. It's not Ryan Ludus. I know that because he's on the Dodgers now. So other than that, Joe, we don't have to spend a lot of time on that. But my quick thought on that is, if he's good enough for the Dodgers, what's going on here, right? Like that's a fair reaction. It's not like we have to get the pitchforks out, because Ryan Ludus didn't have big numbers or anything in Memphis and in St. Louis when he pitched. He was like fine, right? And this is not a guy who was ever a top prospect. He worked really hard to get to his career, and they originally hired him on to help him build a pitching app, right? So impressive that he's able to continue his pitching career as long as he has. I'm rooting for him with the Dodgers. If you're the Cardinals and you need a 40-man spot, is it really the relief pitcher that you send out rather than one of your 92 middle infielders in Memphis that you're never going to use? That's my question. Keep the pitching is what I would have said about that, but it is what it is. He's good enough for the Dodgers, I guess.
Yeah, people on here saying Granello, he's not on the 40-man.
Andre Granillo, yeah, he would be fun, though.
Yeah, he's not on the 40-man, so you would have to make a move, and I don't know where they are right now with the. I think they're at 40 right now, I believe.
They're full, because when they brought up Guerrero, that's when they took Ryan Ludus off, and they ended up trading him to the Dodgers for some money. So, but Granillo has done pretty well. 1.59 ERA in 11 1/3 innings. Joe, 18 strikeouts in 11 1/3 innings. Like, they might not think Andre Granillo is going to translate to the big league level. Like, whatever data they have on him, maybe they're just not, sure about him. 18 strikeouts in 11 innings. He's got wipeout stuff in Memphis and has limited walks to some extent. Like, everybody walks guys down there because of the ABS system, but 4 walks in 11 innings, it's not over the moon. I would like to see Granillo at some point soon. I just think he's more of that 1 inning category. He's not, if you're looking for getting multiples, he's not necessarily the guy that we'd be looking at. Walt mentions Fedde listed as starting today. I expect Fedde to be the starter today, unless they, Ollie Marmol talks with the media and tells them differently here soon. The roster move of McGreevy doesn't indicate necessarily to me, without more info, that something is changing on that front.
Yeah, the clubhouse is open now. It opened 2 minutes ago. So
get in there, Joe.
You know what? If this would have happened, if this would have happened 30 minutes before we went on the air, Brenden, I would have fully expected you to be doing this show from your car right now, driving down to Busch Stadium.
You know me, I live basically in Columbia, so
yes.
I would have been out for that anyway. But
yeah, you could have gotten down there by the time Ollie talked.
I could have gotten down there by like the third inning because Columbia is pretty far away. I live in St. Charles County, but to Joe, that's the Wild West. So
that's you're Columbia right there. I mean,
might as well be in Eureka or something.
Right, go get me a Busch's burger and bring it to the hub. Lineups are out for tonight for this afternoon's game.
Oh, McGreevy playing shortstop. That makes sense. See, I knew there was something we were missing.
You thought Wynn threw hard from short? Wait till you see McGreevy's arm.
Get ready.
Lars Nootbaar in left, Mason Wynn at short, Brendan Donovan at second, Nolan Arenado at third, Wilson Contreras DHing, Alec Burleson at first, Jordan Walker in right, Pedro Pages behind the plate, Victor Scott the second is in center field, and Eric Fetty on the mound. One of the things, so we get the text and we see, and it didn't even occur to me when I saw the text, all I saw was transactions listed. I just thought, it was just going to be arm for an arm. I thought it was just going to be, the Memphis shuttle. I was not expecting to see McGreevy. One thing that didn't even hit me, didn't even touch me when I saw that was the possibility of Ivan Herrera being called up today. Claves mentioned the other day that he thought we would see Ivan Herrera Saturday or Sunday.
Oh, really?
Here this series from his conversations with him on Tuesday. But yes, it does not seem like we will be seeing Ivan Herrera today. Still wait and see tomorrow. Maybe Herrera is it only a pitcher that could be the 27th man, or can it be a position player?
It could be either way. You just always want it to be a pitcher because the reason that you do it is for coverage when you have to pitch 18 innings in one day. So you probably wouldn't see that. It's interesting.
If you have McGreevy on the roster now and you don't use him today, that could be a fun little way to go about it.
I was actually thinking that when Herrera comes up, what would your take be? And I want to address another aspect of that with Wynn Herrera, but with that, with the way we've seen Luke and Baker maybe slide off a little bit, Joel Pozo taking good at bats. I wonder, people kind of complain because they say it's bad roster management when you have three catchers on the team. I actually don't think that would be the case this time if you were to keep Pozo over Baker as just strictly a bat, because the position that it doesn't matter what position either of them play, because you have so many other first basemen. You don't need Baker to actually play the field. And Pozo, it's probably beneficial to have him just around in case you needed a third catcher. You probably wouldn't, but mostly because I think his bat maybe is profiling better right now. When Herrera comes back, what would your thought be on that? Baker down instead of Pozo, and do you think they would consider it?
By the way, just quickly, because I just went to go jump on the Memphis Redbirds website to see the box score from last night. Michael McGreevy is listed as the starter for the Memphis Redbirds today. Obviously not happening.
It was his turn though.
Yeah, but he was supposed to be starting. So if you're calling him up, he's pitching today or tomorrow in some capacity for a lot of innings.
I think in that game. I'm not going to guarantee that, but I think that's what would make sense. Or again, if it's just to be ready because of rain, it could be that. You'd hate to use a guy like that whose development should be prioritized this year. And it's like, you might show up to St. Louis and we might not even use you. That would be not what you want. So we'll see. I'll give the Cardinals the benefit of the doubt. I'm not saying it's easy. I am absolutely tired of, I think we put a roof over the entire city of St. Louis just because the spring rains are that obnoxious. I'm so tired of it. But, and if we can stretch it out to O'Fallon as well, because my backyard and basement situation, I just would like to have less rain going on. But we'll see with McGreevy, the extent to which they use him. But I know you're just trying to avoid the question.
Most rain, by the way, most rain in April in St. Louis, I believe, since 1894 is what I saw the other day. So that's I do have thoughts on the Herrera situation. I do, but you did allow me to avoid enough time to look up the box score from Memphis last night. Ivan Herrera last night went 2 for 3 and caught for the Memphis Redbirds last night. Five innings is all. I was surprised to see that because I thought they were going to slowly bring him along as a catcher more. And I do wonder how that works out when you bring him up. But I 100% agree. Luke and Baker, I think when he made the roster this year, it was to be that thumper off the bench. He was supposed to come off the bench and hit bombs for you late in the game. And you saw the way that he was used early in the season, being brought in pinch hitting for whether it was Gorman or Burleson or Scott, any lefty other than Donovan or Nootbaar, he was brought in those situations to hit off of a lefty, replacing one of your core starters in that, and then going from there.
The guys who they've said we're letting them have runway now. So like, what's the point of the bench? Like, if you're going to let those guys go, you don't need the Baker role as much, probably.
Right. Luken Baker has not done his part of the deal. Luken Baker hit for average. He was getting on base. I don't need Luken Baker to be an on-base guy. I don't need Luken Baker to take walks and get singles. Luken Baker standing at first base does nothing for the Cardinals in his role on the team, because in a lot of those situations early in the year, it was, Luken Baker's on first. Cool. Michael Ciani's going to go run for him now. And that was what we saw.
And so Ciani's not here, so you can't
exactly
work.
So if Luken Baker is not hitting home runs and doubles for you and driving in runs and being that big pinch hitter off the bench, we have seen how much this offense has struggled at times without Ivan Herrera in there. Ivan Herrera becomes that DH, becomes that right-handed bat, becomes that cleanup hitter for you as soon as he is back on this roster, whether it is DHing or catching every single day. And I think that it's going to be more of a DH role. And I do think that he comes up and it's Luken Baker that goes back down to Memphis.
And so we'll see if that ends up being the case. Joseph mentions that Baker needs playing time in Memphis. I actually don't think that's true.
I don't think the Cardinals, I do not think the Cardinals care about the playing time of Luken Baker.
When we talk about, and I understand why somebody might think that, because we're talking about that with the Sajaisi and saying, well, he needs to play. Baker's not in the same category. Baker's 4 years older. Baker is not a prospect. Baker's role in Major League Baseball was what we saw him doing over the first month, if he's going to succeed in it, and he didn't this time. So we'll see. Space asked who got sent down. Roderick Munoz got the quick hook back to Memphis after being used in the game last night. I think he pitched a couple of innings, and so he's who goes down. But we'll see if the Cardinals see it that way when it comes to the Luken Baker versus Joel Pozo. Pozo's taking good at bats to where he can do that. And like you said, there was another aspect of Baker's role where it was DHing against left-handed pitching to begin the season. And you have to have Ivan Herrera in your lineup. Do you realize he hasn't DH'd this year? Ivan Herrera was just catching or he wasn't playing. And that can't be. He's your best hitter, at least for the portion of the season he was here. He's got to be in the lineup. And so,
I mean, he also got hurt 10 days into the season. I think, I think when we looked at this roster and the way it was constructed early in the season, I think we all expected Ivan Herrera to DH. Anytime there was a lefty on the mound, we were waiting for that lineup to be thrown out there.
But it was
with Ivan Herrera DHing and Page's catching. We were expecting that. We just didn't get there. But I do think you saw that. I mean, he had the 3 home run game. They moved him up to number 2 in the order. It
was coming.
Confidence and the trust in Ivan Herrera and realizing what his offense meant to this team. Ollie was all in on that. And I think that, I mean, this would be a completely different record, a different team if Ivan Herrera was still didn't get hurt in Boston.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so he's going to have to be in the lineup, and he's not going to catch every day because, frankly, like even the catching skills perspective, he wasn't up to par necessarily when he was hitting bombs in the early part of the season. But who cares? At a certain point, like his future might not be behind the plate. The Cardinals are sure hoping it is, but if his bat is what we saw in the beginning of the year, it doesn't matter. You have to have that bat in your lineup. And so no more DH possibilities for Baker against lefties anyway. That needs to be Herrera. Herrera catches half the games when a righty is on the mound for the other team, and Pages catches the other half. Maybe Pozo gets a stray opportunity too if he's still here. Yeah. But Herrera's in the lineup at least 5 times a week, I think has to be the way that goes. All the more reason that you probably just don't have a lot of utility for that Luken Baker role when they're less. And this part is fine if we disagree with the way they're approaching it. I understand it. They're not really pinch hitting for guys anymore. We saw it kind of changed on a dime after about a week or two where Ollie Marmol was using the whole bench, everybody was getting into games. They were pinch hitting for the lefties when they had a righty spot come up. And then they just kind of stopped doing that. Part of that under the guise of, hey, development year, transition year, we got to find out what Gorman is. We got to find out what these guys are. And that's fine, I guess. But if that's the case, even more reason that like Baker does not serve a role. If he's not getting, you're not pinch hitting for the lefties when the spot comes up as often. and you're going to have Herrera be your DH against lefties. Hopefully that'll be the case. Yeah, just kind of further pointing to maybe just Baker doesn't have much of a role right now. We'll see if that changes before Herrera comes back, because I actually don't think we see him until Monday. We'll see. Maybe tomorrow makes sense, Joe, but if he caught 5 innings, they may want him to catch more innings than that in one of his rehab starts, and you may want him to have an off day in between playing again just to kind of get him, rested and ready. So Monday probably would be the day I would think we see Ivan Herrera, because the minor leagues don't play that day anyway, so you can't extend your rehab to that point. You'd be waiting for Tuesday, which is too long. So we'll probably see him Monday against Pittsburgh.
I would think that's I could see just giving him the off day today after catching 5 innings yesterday, see how the knee reacts.
Could be.
I could see that being more of the case than wanting to see him a second time. I would say through rehab and everything else that you've done with him.
Yeah.
My thinking behind that is that you see what it looks like as far as, okay, the knee's good. You caught 5 innings. Great. Because even if you do bring him up here and you have Pujols and you have Pages able to catch, even if he does go 5 innings, you still have 2 catchers back there. So you Wilson Contreras isn't that emergency catcher anymore. You have 3 catchers on your roster.
Yeah, we'll see if they end up going that route or not. Joseph says no need for him to catch. I can tell you that the Cardinals will still not agree with that, because you've got other guys to get into the DH spot. Like Gorman has used it at times. There have been others that you're trying to mix into the lineup. It's not just going to be exclusive for Herrera, I wouldn't think. To think that the Cardinals would give up on, in a year where, like, whatever Jordan Walker's defense was in right field, he was going to play it because they needed to see if he could stick. He's looking like he can. Defensively, Walker's done really well out there. Herrera, he can DH to get him in the lineup, but he also needs to still be moving along as a catcher, especially in a year where the Cardinals might not be going anywhere anyway in the standings, because they would like to know in the future, is he viable to catch 80 games, to be not just a full-time DH, or to not have to move to first base. Like, still, like, pouring into those skills and seeing what they can become, I think is still an important benchmark for the Cardinals to see, especially in a year where they're not really, I say intending on going to the playoffs. They're not expecting to have a playoff run, at least at this point, I wouldn't think.
Hey, this is Cards Hub 365, powered by Gray Bar. We're also brought to you by DraftKings. All content on Sports Hub STL brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5. Get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
And of course, you can also look at some of the NBA games and NHL. Tonight, 2 Game 7s that you can head on over to that DraftKings Pick 6 app and look at, I don't know what kind of numbers they're predicting Jokic to put up in Game 7 tonight for the Nuggets. And I would say probably take the over on every stat that they give him for that.
Higher, more,
Yeah.
more. Yeah. You would think, I mean, he's kind of the one-man crew right now for Denver. We'll see.
Hey, those lineups again, if you missed them earlier, there they are for you on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, on the Sports Hub STL page, and if you are, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to see all of the content we put out here each and every day on Sports Hub STL. Post-game show coming up later today with Ethan Hannaford and Stephen Carey, whenever that might be. But it's Nootbaar in left, Wynn at short, Donovan at second, Arenado at third, Contreras DHing, Burleson at first, Walker in right, Pages behind the plate, and Scott in center field for the Cardinals today. As we mentioned earlier, the breaking news truly, as we hit go live today, was that the Cardinals called up Michael McGreevy, sent Roderick Munoz down. The locker room opened for the Cardinals about 20 minutes ago. So Brenden and I both looking at Twitter to see the likes of Katie Wu, John Denton, people that are in the locker room to see if any news comes out, any reason for that move happens. And as we do that, just quickly, I mean, last night Cardinals do lose to the Mets in a game where just went back and forth for a little bit, and then the Mets just took control, and their offense just kind of had their way with the Cardinals. But we saw again, Mason Wynn goes 3 for 4. And since moving up to the 2 spot in the lineup the past couple days, a few multi-hit games for Mason Wynn. Have liked seeing that. I think Ollie saw something in Mason Wynn's swing when he came off the IL. Took a chance at putting him number 2 behind Lars Nootbaar, and we've seen that lineup kind of get extended a little bit. And so far, the results are pretty positive on Mason Wynn being that number 2 hitter.
Yeah, I think it kind of coincided too with, all right, we know Herrera is on the horizon and you're trying to find the fit for that number 2 spot. If you move Contreras down to more of an RBI producing spot, what other right-handed bat could fit in there with Nootbaar and Donovan flanking that player with the leadoff spot in the number 3 hole? And Mason Wynn has speed. Like, that's always an element that's kind of attractive to have in that number 2 slot, so you can keep the line moving up at the top of the order and you get extra bases that way. I just think it comes down to can he get on base enough to justify it? And certainly we've seen Mason Wynn doing that now. So I think even when Herrera comes back, it might make sense to do that, Joe. Because I think because of Mason Wynn's profile, he either fits up in the 1 or the 2, or you kind of are inclined to move him down 8 or 9. But then you're having to wait 3 innings to see him in the beginning of the game. And I think he's got too much juice right now to do that. So how they exactly want to align it could be interesting. Like, would they move Brendan Donovan down a little bit? Would they? I don't know what they'll do when they're squeezing Herrera in. Maybe your lineup just gets longer, and you've got.
I think Herrera. I think Herrera's your cleanup guy. I think Herrera's. Yeah, I think Arenado down to 5. I mean, that's where we saw Arenado start the year, right? Down at 5th in the lineup. Or was he cleanup most of the year?
He's pretty much been cleanup the whole.
Okay, well, yeah. Then I think Herrera 4, but then you're going 3 righties in a row, which we both know that Ollie's not crazy about.
No, but like it may just be what it is, because I don't think your other lefties right now, Burleson or Gorman, are in a spot where you can justify putting them up as high as 5. Like if you put Herrera or Arenado, it doesn't really matter. A righty at cleanup, a lefty, you're not going to move Contreras down. So Contreras 5. Would you put that lefty at 6 and bump the other righty down to 7? Like, you're not going to put Arenado down at 7. You probably don't. It gets to be a little bit crowded. And like every day is different, because today Gorman's not in the lineup. And I looked, I'm like, oh, they must be facing lefty. Nope. He's just not in the lineup because they're putting Burleson in there. So the constant kind of trying to find a way to prioritize somebody, but you don't know who it's exactly going to be, is tricky. But Damian suggesting this alignment, I don't think they'll move Arenado down personally. Like, if I were predicting it, I don't think you'll see Herrera batting cleanup. I'd be surprised. I'm not saying there's not validity to the idea. Just don't think they're moving Arenado. That being said, if you look at Arenado's kind of recent numbers, a little bit of a downturn, but had obviously the big swing in the walk-off win on last week. But since then, he's got 2 hits in 4 games. Yeah, I mean, he's in a little bit of downturn. I don't think they'll move Arenado, though. So you'll probably see Herrera's either batting 2nd or 6th, I think. And if they really want to be stubborn about it, they can bat him 7th, and they can put that lefty Burleson or Gorman up at 6th to break up the lefties and righties. Who cares at this point? That's my stance on the lefty right. Like, if you're talking about that deep into the lineup, I get it to start the lineup off. It makes some sense to set the tone that way. I don't know, man. If it's the development year, get the lineup, the guys that need to bat, just get them in there, and you figure out when they bring in a reliever, I don't know, be willing to use that lefty off the bench if you've got one, or don't. Whatever floats your boat. I just wouldn't worry too much about 3 righties in a row. The Cardinals they got bigger problems in terms of the way that the record is the record. If your guys are all right-handed and that's who's thumping, then put those guys in the thumping spots and worry about the rest later.
As I look here through the chat, and I don't know if you've noticed it too, a lot of people in the chat have been talking about the injury that happened yesterday in Boston. First baseman, is it Casas?
Tristan Casas.
Yeah, went down an ugly injury. You haven't seen the highlight of it yet?
I was in blues mode yesterday.
Okay,
so
running to first base, a little slow roller up the first base line. Pitcher fielded it, flipped it to first, and Casas, however, his foot hit the first base bag, immediately went down, grabbing his knee, and looks. I believe they're just. I mean, instant reaction to it was that he's probably done for the year with that. I haven't seen the actual medical updates on it, but
he was carted off, though. I mean, that's
yeah. So a few of the people in the comments are mentioning do
significant injury.
Yeah. Do the Cardinals reignite in conversations with Boston about Arenado moving there? That was something they had talked about. Then people I know commenting Luke and Baker. That's the trade Luke and Baker to the Red Sox. Who says no? Who says no?
He's hitting 40 bombs if you do, though. That's just the way it is.
Right, exactly. He's just, just pop-ups over the monster all day long. And then also Burleson is the other one that they're throwing out there. Trade Burleson to the Red Sox. Who says no?
I mean, look, Arenado would be the one that makes sense. And Walt mentions, come on, Brandon. I don't know who Brandon is, but he says, just say it. Arenado likes hitting fourth, and Ollie doesn't have the willpower to challenge him or risk pissing him off. I'll say this. Arenado likes hitting fourth, and leaving well enough alone is sometimes the best way to do things when you got 92 different things to have to figure out as a manager on a daily basis. I'm not hiding from, I've said it before, Arenado likes to hit fourth. And if he hit a walk-off within the last week, that's probably enough license to keep him there for the time being. It's not like he's on an 0 for 20. He had a hit last night. He's had a couple of hits, but yeah, he's, like I said, he's on a downturn, but I don't think that's quite enough to dislodge him from the 4 spot. Maybe the best way to dislodge him is to trade him to the Red Sox and see if you can get something for him. Especially right now, that would solve some problems of finding the playing time they want for everybody. Cardinals would lose more games though that way, because I think Arenado's better than the players that would be getting playing time instead. But again, that would be one way to kind of get to the point when it comes to finding out development year, transition year, etc.
John Denton just tweeted out as I'm looking here. I thought it was going to be news about the usage of McGreevy, but
we're not going to get it. They're not going to get it on the show today, I don't think.
It's going to John Denton, Michael McGreevy was called up today. He said he had just gotten out of the Marvel movie Thunderbolts on Friday night when he found out he was headed to the big leagues. That was
nice. I haven't kept up with all the Marvel stuff. Is it?
I don't know if I believe it's one of the off of the Avengers, but it's going to be in the same world. I'm waiting to see. Yeah, I need to know when Robert Downey Jr. is going to be back and playing Dr. Doom in the next Avengers movie. That's the next thing I'm looking for.
Well, you're going to miss a lot, because if you don't watch all the ones in between, you don't have
I'll watch them when they come to Disney Plus. I'm not running to the theater
to
go see any of those.
Sure.
For right now. We've done 40 minutes here, Brendan, as we kind of waited to see what the news was. If you are just joining us, if you're just popping in and you saw the McGreevy news and you wanted to know what was going on with that.
Well, so do we.
We are waiting too. He is called up today. It was a roster move that they called him up. Roderick Munoz sent down. Of the many things that we have mentioned on the show today, possible rain in the forecast that we saw the other day with the Libator start, where you had to take Libator out of the game after the hour rain delay. That could be a role for McGreevy, who is scheduled to start today in Memphis. If the game is banged today and you play a doubleheader tomorrow, you also have the option of McGreevy pitching or even starting in one of those games tomorrow. Or you just want to make me really happy and save him to start on Tuesday against Paul Skeens at Busch Stadium. That would also make me that would make me very happy to go there and watch.
Yeah. So again, we speculated on the weather situation could be coverage, having McGreevy around. It feels like, though, because of the record, if they're bringing him up, it would be kind of gross to then send him back down, unless this is truly just like a one weekend, just need some coverage. Get a look at you type of thing. I don't know what they're going to do, though, because the numbers
Nick,
game doesn't dictate finding a spot for him in the rotation. So we'll see. Here's what I'll say, Nick. I do not think they're going to stick him in the bullpen as a middle reliever. This is probably weather-related, probably isolated to this weekend, or they're saying, hey, he's available out of the bullpen, and then we're going to implement him into the rotation next week. We're going to make the moves necessary to do that. I don't know what those moves would be, so I'm hesitant to say that that's what this is. It could just be he's a mercenary for the weekend type of vibe. We'll find out soon.
Yeah, that's 100%. Trevor chimed in, ruptured left patellar tendon for Cassis, just announced.
Anytime you say ruptured,
that just hurts to read.
Yep, my knee hurts.
Yeah, so unfortunate injury there. So I would say continue to follow Sports Hub STL on all social media platforms, and I would and see just what the usage looks like. And even though, and I would say also, we know John Denton's down there. I'd say Katie Wu. Follow them on Twitter and see what they have to say. With that, I don't think Ethan Hannaford's down at the ballpark today, but I know he and Stephen Carey will be on the post-game show today. Yeah, you
was with me last night at Enterprise.
You guys had a late night of hockey last night, so that's just follow the social medias. We have we brought you the news and we gave you as much of it as we could here as we've rolled on the show today. So that's what we got for you. Post-game show coming up whenever it is over. Ethan Hannaford and Stephen Carey will be with you for that. This, of course, is Cards Hub 365, powered by Gray Bar here on Sports Hub STL. All content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. For Brenden Schaeffer, I'm Joe Roderick. Have a great rest of your Saturday.